I can do that. I got back on my computer.
Oh, okay.
All right. So the Yarmouth Finance Committee meeting of April 14th, 2021, pursuant to Governor Baker's March 12th, 2020 order suspending certain provisions of the Open Meeting Law, General Law 30A, subsection 18, and the Governor's March 15th, 2020 order imposing a limitation on the number of people that may gather in one location. This meeting will be conducted via remote participation. Specific information such as instructions and guidelines for remote by members of the public and or parties with a right and or requirement to attend this meeting can be found on the town website at www.ma.us.
Great. Thanks, Pat. Hey, everyone. Welcome, welcome. We're going to start with a roll call. We're just going to go down the line. Nate?
Yeah, I'm here.
Sarah?
Here.
Robert?
Yeah.
George?
Yeah.
Jack?
Here.
Stephanie?
Here.
I put
And I'm here as well. First thing on the agenda is to look at some minutes.
what to do because it just no one running around.
From the 13th of January and the 20th of January. So has everybody got a chance to read those? Does anybody have any questions, comments, concerns?
Oops. You can see what's coming.
Right. Do we have a motion perhaps to accept?
I'll move.
I'll give you a motion.
We have a motion on the floor from Sarah. Nate, would you like to second?
Yep. Yes.
Okay, we're gonna take a vote. Nate,
Yes.
Sarah,
Yep.
Robert,
Aye.
George,
Aye.
Jack,
Aye.
Steph.
Abstain. I didn't read them.
That's okay. And I'm an aye as well. Moving on to the next agenda item. So the warrant has been finalized. We don't have a copy yet, Bob.
I sent those at about 1 o'clock this
Okay.
afternoon.
Yeah.
At least the last one I got from Ed. So hopefully you have it.
Did anybody get one?
I did.
Yes. Yeah. Yes, I got it.
Yeah.
Am I the only,
Yes.
am I the only one that didn't get it?
Maybe they put BU Gardner instead of BC Gardner.
I'll resend.
Well, that would be a horrible, horrible mistake. Now, wouldn't it?
Careful.
Did I put the wrong address in?
I
Yeah,
heard
Because I
that.
sent them.
I do not have it. The
Do you think
last-
I had the wrong address, Pat?
You shouldn't have, sir, but something could have happened and I didn't receive them, so I can't forward them on, but Ed,
No.
has, maybe he can do that for us.
Ed can do it. Whoa, hello.
Okay, so did anybody get a chance to look over those? No,
Okay, what are we doing here?
no.
Oh, whoops.
Um,
Damn it.
well,
Was
let's, Ed, do you want to share those minutes, those warrant items with us and we can kind of look through them? We don't, if we haven't had a chance to review them, I don't think it makes sense to vote on them.
No. There may be some I thought that you had already done or you already looked at if you wanted to do those. I didn't anticipate you were going to be able to take too many votes, but
Okay,
I thought you did some of them. And then we can go over and if you had any questions, anything we can get for you as we go through.
sure. Why
As
don't
we
we,
go through all of them.
yeah, let's take a look through and any of the more complicated ones
Yep.
obviously are going to need a little bit more time. and
Perfect.
I'm sure there's some out there that are fairly simple to, Ed can,
Can always hope.
yeah. Boy,
Can
can,
always hope. The first one is the, and I'll, if it's okay, I'll just start going through these.
that's fine.
These are appropriations for this fiscal year. Construction demolition debris, 150,000, and then snow and ice. The construction and demolition debris, because of the financing, it can't be a transfer. They're taking in a great deal of money. Construction is really up. And so in the budget, they only budgeted for with X amount of dollars. They had no idea what the economy was going to do. And so I think in round numbers, Jeff Colby told me they've taken in an additional $250,000, but we have to spend 150. So I think the goal would be take it out of free cash, and then the 250 stays in the budget and then is certified as free cash next year. So it pays for itself, but the accounting has to be done this way.
Stephanie, questions?
Yeah, just a quick point of clarification. You say taking it in, where are they getting the revenue from?
When somebody doing construction and or demolition, they bring it to the disposal area and we charge them.
Oh, that's what okay. It's not just the DPW's. Okay, got it.
No. This is I should have been clear. You're right. At the disposal area, the stuff comes in and goes over the scale and we send them a bill. So it's been a very good year.
Okay, great.
And it is going to be paid for more than ample when the free cash is certified next year.
And with snow and ice, isn't part of that funded through the state through either Chapter 90 or something else?
No.
No, that's all.
We don't
That's,
get any money for,
you don't?
yeah, we don't get any money for snow and ice. What it is, you can go into deficit, and I think, and Ed can chime in, but the goal, I think, in this town is not to do a deficit, just pay for it.
Okay.
So I think they have a low budget based upon some idea of what happened the previous years. This year, even though there was not a lot of snow, they did have, I believe, a lot of sanding and salting for ice, which I think drives this up.
But this isn't for this year. This is for next year.
No, this is this year. This is
Okay, so this is retroactive.
because the way we write the article, it's for and that needs to change. It's FY, you're right, Stephanie. It's, and I thought they changed that. I believe it's FY 21. It's this fiscal year. That is a mistake. Thank you for
Does
pointing that
say
out.
FY21 operating budget.
Bob, I changed it.
You did. It is,
Okay.
it does say under the
No, I just changed it before,
Yep.
when we were
great.
starting this discussion. It's
Oh,
wrong
okay.
on your copy, though.
Yeah,
Okay.
so it is this fiscal year. It's easier to, in this case, pay for it rather than have a deficit.
And the snow and ice at 50,000 represents increase, level, or decrease.
From last year?
There would be an increase over what was appropriated at the last annual town meeting. Yes.
Okay.
But I think it's lower than the actual that was in the previous year. And I don't have that. But
Yeah, we last year, we gave back money. We didn't spend all the snow and ice because it was so mild. This year, we did spend it. We spent more than what was put into the budget. And this is one, as Bob indicated, we can legally underspend and raise it on the tax recap and increase our taxes, but we have for a number of years just utilized free cash to make that account whole.
Okay. And just a quick point of clarification, if it's up, is it just costs are up? Because we didn't have much snow.
It would be, well, as Ed was saying, let's see, on the budget itself that I dragged out, FY20, the actuals were 18,315 for wages, mostly overtime, and expenses were 58,562, but there was no snow. So this year, the fiscal 21, it was $41,000 for wages that were budgeted and 156,100 for expenses. And Ed, I'm not sure, I would assume, maybe incorrectly, that this is an expense increase and not a wage increase. It isn't clear. Ed?
looking.
Sorry, that was mute. Yeah, expense increase.
So it's expenses. So the total, Stephanie, would be $206,100 for expenses because of the contract. Those are contractors, when they're called out, it's, I don't know how much it is each time, but it's a significant amount of money when they call people out to do the sanding, salting, and or plowing.
And
Okay.
We're paying them
Bob,
minimums
can I interject
because
here
it's
before
hard
we
to
move
get them.
Oops.
It's hard to get snowplowers.
All right, thank you for explaining that.
I would like to raise a question that Robert's asking, and I had this question earlier. Are we allowed to be discussing the warrant items without it being on the agenda? We'd like some clarification from Bob, please.
Oh. I thought Pat said it was on the agenda.
Well, the revised department budget is on the agenda, not the warrant items.
Because we weren't sure, we put a new business line in there to discuss, and because this wasn't prepared till today, I thought it was appropriate under new business. I thought I had clarified that.
So before we continue with this discussion, we really should think about this, if this is the appropriate time to be doing this.
Well, you could review them and not take a vote. I mean, it's done in public. Could be new business, sure. It's not specific to the warrant. I thought the warrant was on.
Brian, can I make a comment?
We hustled.
Absolutely, Robert.
I just think it's inappropriate for us to be discussing town warrant, which is like a huge thing when it's never been noticed at all. It's nowhere near on the agenda. It doesn't even apply. I mean, it says budget, but all those article items, and we only got it at 1 o'clock. I mean,
I tend to agree with you, Robert.
Okay.
So I think we should probably review this on our own and schedule it.
Okay.
My apologies. I thought it was covered.
Yeah, no, I mean,
I'll make sure it's on the next agenda.
Well then, how's everyone doing?
Thanks for keeping us out of trouble, Robert.
Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned that. I mean, we kind of discussed it a little earlier before, but we want to make sure we're doing it right. So we can discuss the upcoming schedule. Pat had sent the schedule to me. I think everyone probably got a copy. Pat, did you send that to everybody, or did you send that just to me? The projected agenda items for everybody. For all.
Oh, you mean the timeline between now and town meeting?
Right.
I believe I sent that to you as you requested, but I didn't forward it to everyone.
That's fine. I'm gonna forward it, but I'll give you a rundown as to how it applies to us. So we have on, oh gosh, we know the May 4th is capital budgets presentation as well as our presentation. That's correct, right, Bob?
Yes, there'll be 3. There's one because I found out today that there was never a hearing on the 5-year plan. I don't know why, but I put that on for the 4th, and then the required under the charter, the review by Bob Rittenauer has to give a brief overview of financial issues, and then the Finance Committee and Capital Budget Committee will review the two, your recommendations, and then the Capital Budget Committee recommendations. Yes.
Okay. I'm looking for Pat's email, and of course now I can't find it. That's how it always is.
It came to you on the 13th at 1:41 p.m.
Oh, here we go. So tonight is kind of a bust as far as what we're going to do, so we'll just have to regroup. That's fine. The 21st, which is next Wednesday, that's when we're going to vote on. So we were going to review the warrant articles. That was the kind of the intention here, and it just didn't work out that way. So that's fine. So we'll review them on our own and then be prepared for a vote next week, which is the 21st. On the 28th, we're going to be reviewing anything left on the warrant that we don't get approved or voted on, and discuss the May 4th meeting. And then May 4th is the presentation in front of the Board of Selectmen.
Right.
the Board of Selectmen on the 11th is doing their final meeting preparations, and then we go to meeting. I don't know how that's going to be, Bob. Are we all going to be going there? Do we all get the opportunity to go to this town meeting this year or no?
Yes, it's going to be outside, as I think Finance Committee had recommended, and it's going to be on the 9 o'clock on the 22nd, be outside with spaced chairs, etc.
And
So,
what
yes.
about weather issues if it were to rain?
We,
No.
what we asked Pat to do, and she did, is to talk to the school, and we will move inside into the auditorium.
Okay. So let's pray for sun and nice warm weather.
There, but not too warm.
Well, May 22nd, I doubt it anyways.
Yeah, I think you're right. Yep.
So that's what we have coming up to look forward to. We do not have any transfer this evening. We handled both of those last week.
Right.
New business, I think, we could have a kind of a little quick discussion. Anybody watch the Board of Selectmen meeting last night? Did anybody check out the school budget? I don't think there was any major surprises. Ed, do you want to share anything, or Bob, do you want to share anything that you took away from that?
Ed, do you want to say, Bob right now we gave a review, but Ed has some details?
I think the big discussion was the school committee's budget as it relates to our balancing act, and they are at 900,000 plus over Proposition 2.5. The selectmen previously voted to do an override around $420,000. So the work that you all did with the rest of the budget is what allows us to balance that budget. And that doesn't use any short-term rentals at this point or any of that kind of stuff. So we're set as long as the override passes. If the override doesn't pass, then there's a cascading number of steps that could happen from there. Ideally, the school would reduce their budget and give us a new assessment. But if that doesn't happen, then we go through whatever steps we all think is appropriate to get our budget back in balance.
Would we have the opportunity to change our decision on how we fund that, or does it automatically go to like a tent type scenario?
Oh, no, you have another opportunity. The process is that if the budget's contingent upon an override, and the override, and actually we'll know this on the 22nd because the election is on the 18th. So I don't know, I doubt if within those couple of days you can make the major adjustments if they're necessary. But then if we pass the budget without the override and the school has not reduced it, they have an opportunity to reduce or adjust their budget, and then we have another town meeting to fund it. After that, third time, then you'd go to a district meeting. We're not going to get there. I think we can make the accommodations. We'll have to discuss it, obviously, but there could be reductions in expenses and/or use of other available funds, which are possible for one-time expenses, because the delta would be the $420,000.
What was the dollar value the last time? And maybe we don't know this answer. When the last time we went to the tent, what was the override amount then? Do we remember? Was it a much larger sum?
Yes, it was over $1 million.
Okay.
Because we've had 2 of the so-called tent meetings.
Okay.
We didn't win either one. So.
I recall.
One time, well, I think in 2008, I think was one of the times we closed fire station number 2 and did layoffs and some other things. That was the worst one.
Stephanie, you had a question?
Yeah, Bob, just trying to understand. So I confess, I only have so many time to watch so many selectmen's meetings and other meetings.
Good for you.
So I watched last night's meeting. I did not watch the previous selectmen's meeting. So I'm still not 100% clear. I understand the rationale behind putting an override on the warrant in the first place, but it's there. It is what it is. I guess my question to you is, do we have any options on the floor to have a backup option kind of ready to go in terms of like the contingency proposal that we worked on that Ed, proposed, et cetera, offering that as an alternative?
If the override fails,
Yeah.
yes. I mean, it's a simple answer, but certainly if the suggestion was that we increase our estimated receipts
Mhm.
and use possibly some receipts that we have that we would that we have available, dip into more free cash. I mean, to be blunt, or reduce more capital. I mean, is another, the simple and easy way to do it. It's $420,000, so it will have adverse effects, but I don't believe we have contemplated, or Bob Rittenauer has contemplated, any layoffs if the override does not pass.
I guess I just don't understand because we went through, I think we voted on a proposal that would not result in any layoffs.
Yeah.
Was really just using some kind of fancy accounting to kind of move money around and whatnot.
It's the guy to explain the fancy accounting.
Yeah, I don't know what the technical term for it is, but I'm calling it fancy accounting.
That was the technical term.
And it was for more than 400,000. So I just don't understand why we can't just present that's basically a slimmed down version of that as an alternative. I don't get what the problem is I guess what I'm saying.
Are you talking about if the override doesn't pass a couple of days?
Yeah.
Right.
Yes, we can.
I mean, am I overthinking this, or would it be prudent for us to have that ready?
Obviously, my boss may have a different opinion on which way to go, but yeah, I'm always thinking of contingencies. So yeah, I mean, we can work that out beforehand, have that ready, and have people say yay or nay to it. The only problem is, do we really want to do that in a public session? I think we'll probably kind of think about that and have alternatives and then discuss that. I think
Stephanie, you're right. You would have, if there is a good plan, you would have that ready. You would have to vote it, the selectmen would have to vote it. And that maybe even though it's 9 o'clock in the morning when the town meeting starts, we'd probably schedule a meeting for at least the selectmen, and possibly a joint meeting at like 8 o'clock, pick a time. And then say, here's plan B because the override failed.
And we've
And
had
that
to
could
do
all
that.
be ready to go.
We've had to do that previously with the school, where there are negotiations right up to the start of the town meeting.
Yeah.
So, when I said public session, it would be a public session, but we'll probably unveil it right before the town meeting, a couple of different options for people to select from.
Yeah, I don't want to undermine the effort to get it passed, but I just feel like it would make sense to have something generally ready to go. It makes me a little nervous, the idea of like, I would want something ready to go that everyone had kind of seen before 8 a.m. the morning of. You know what I mean? Like, I wouldn't want us to be negotiating back and forth with the selectmen at 8:30. But it seems to me then, would we then, I mean, I'm just sort of like throwing this all out here. We haven't voted on whether or not this makes sense, but if the committee did agree to that, would we then need to post intention of having a meeting on that day at 8
Yes.
AM just in case and
Oh, yeah, you'd
have
always
all
do
of
that
our ducks
anyway.
in a row.
Right,
You'd
we'll
always
have,
do it anyway. It's easier to post it and not do it
Yeah, that's what I
Then-
thought.
want to do it. It's just like everything else, you know, I ask Bob Rittenhour to put things on the agenda that I'm pretty sure aren't going to go. But so what? You just say, nope, postponed. I mean, I'd rather be safe. I think you're right, Stephanie. Safe
And
rather
Stephanie,
than
to your
scrambling.
point, you've already voted on a plan.
Right, but Ed, the plan that we voted on would have kind of scraped out more from the budget than what, like it was more than the 400,000, right? So you'd have to
Yeah,
ultimately skinny that down, right? Otherwise you would be taking more out of it for no reason.
No, you've already voted to take the amount out of the budget, and that's what helps us balance the budget. We would not, the override, the amount over Proposition 2.5 was over $900,000. The selectmen were given 3 options: no override, override of 420, and an override of 979,000. The only way you get to the override of 420 was the work that you all did to balance the budget ahead of time. And part of that work was we used local receipts as an increase in local receipts to balance everything else off.
Yeah.
But
So we've
Ed, I
already-
thought that part of this though was that the school committee had come back and had shaved another like 1.6 or 7 million off of their budget. So that reduces the amount for,
They did not reduce their assessment by that amount of money. They reduced one-time things that don't affect our tax levy. They did reduce by 400,000, which has an effect on our tax levy. But the other money that they did, the reducing the tax rate by paying exempt debt, that did nothing to our assessment. The capital, which was going to come out of free cash, did nothing to the assessment. So those dollars did not reduce the assessment.
okay.
But you've already voted on, debated on, we've had a lot of sessions about how we would have done the budget without an override.
So what you're saying is, Ed, is that we don't have to take the work that we did and do a skinnier version of it, that version stands if
You would-
if as a fallback.
If that was the method adopted for the 420, you would do less in local receipts. If the $420,000 for the override didn't pass, you wouldn't need $600,000 in local receipts. You would need 420.
That's exactly my point. That's why I'm suggesting a
Right.
skinnier version of,
Right.
or
Right.
I guess,
Yeah.
yeah, a skinnier version of cuts.
But to Bob's
Yeah.
point, we could reduce the capital by that much. The capital that's coming out of free cash, you could reduce other spending items. There are, several ways to approach it. And, it's going to be a matter of talking to Mr. Rittenhour and seeing, perhaps what approach he might like to suggest. Different than, what we had already worked out. He might want to go in a different direction.
Probably not, but you'd increase you'd increase your estimated receipts
Yeah.
because it's low. I mean, I think you're at 70-some% of what the actual was. So
Yeah.
you would increase that by some amount. And
And
I
we're
think
not,
that was what you talked about with Ed several weeks ago.
right. And we're not using any short-term rental right now.
Right. Yep. No.
well, we're gonna have to figure this out. I don't know if we can, we'll just have to have a discussion about this.
But
Okay.
you already have a proposal that you've already voted on and approved. It would just be that if we went in a different direction, you might have to do something
Oh.
different.
Well,
Yeah, I'm just suggesting that we
I'll be right.
plan on scheduling all that and build that into our schedule.
Mhm.
Absolutely.
Okay.
And as Bob said, it's done normally anyway.
Mr. Chair.
Yes, Robert?
Stephanie, I hate this, but I agree with you. We should definitely look at ways of doing another $400,000 in case we get jammed up. I got a lot of ideas on where we could find that 400, and I know it may defeat the purpose of the override, but that's not really my problem. My problem is town budget and working with the townspeople and the best that will serve them. the 400 grand, I think it's actually crazy to ask for an override for $400,000 in an $80 million company. But that's beside the point. But I'm with you, Stephanie. Next meeting, if we could maybe throw some ideas around, I've got a couple where we can find 400 grand pretty easily.
Well, I don't think it's a question of finding it. We've already found it. It's just a question of rewording what we voted on to make that a skinnier version. Right? I mean, that's really what it comes down to.
Well, the way I understand this is that if it passes the way it's presented, we are $400,000 short. The $400,000 short is being made up by an override, correct?
Correct.
So if we don't pass the override, we do have to find $400,000 more.
We already found the $400,000 more. So our original proposal that we worked on did not include an override. So we've already approved enough to cover the budget.
So what went back into the budget to make the now $400,000 higher? Is it because the schools didn't get to the number we were hoping them to?
I don't believe so. Ed, can you speak to that?
No. It's part of it.
Yeah, we've been trying to pressure the schools for, I don't know, 2 months to, do some things to allow us to avoid an override. And they went partway there. They did a good job going partway there. They've given us some flexibility, but they didn't go all the way there. They have the wherewithal. They've got a ton of money coming their way, already laid out. They could have used more and not put us in this position, but they decided not to.
Stephanie?
Either Ed or Bob have, I know House Ways and Means budget just came out at noon, so you probably haven't had a chance to dig into it at all, but does anyone have any sense at this point of the, Chapter 70, local aid, et cetera, and how that might improve our options?
Yep. If it's up, that would help. Ed, have you seen it?
I've seen estimates based on Cape Cod Times article, just as a proxy. Bourne got $5 million, or it's proposed that Bourne would get $5 million. So that means, we would get more probably. That's on top of the ESSER money. So they've got 1.7 million in E&D. They've got, let me just pull up the spreadsheet. Hold on, just so I don't have to read it. You guys can look at it.
And I mean, and I think another thing, just to check in on Ed for the next meeting, I think it would be helpful to know is Superintendent Woodbury mentioned in the selectmen's meeting that Senator Sear had discussed a pothole account for schools, understanding that enrollment overall was lower for across the board. So seeing if that manifested itself on the House side as opposed to just the Senate side, which isn't released yet, that would also be good, I think, good to know.
So this is their new money, unspent money. This is related to CARES Act. This has nothing to do with what the state's going to give them. So, and then they have the $1.7 million in E&D. They've got a war chest.
So it's a little small, Ed, but we're looking at, the $5 million figure or the $2.2 million figure?
It is what they have not yet spent.
5 million.
7.3 million. And that's federal money. Now you're talking about the state money, which would be on top of that, and then add up, and let's just put in Bourne's numbers as an illustration. And then let's put their $1.7 million of E&D. So that's their war chest.
I think you're missing a zero, Ed, in that 1.7 million.
I just didn't put the commas in.
There you go.
So if the override passes, our first go would be at the schools to say, you got to reduce your budget.
So that's the money they're gonna have in their war chest, like meaning their savings account. Is that what you're saying?
You're muted again, Ed.
They'll point out that we'll have 3.25 million from federal funds. And we should use that money. So that'll be the kind of going back and forth. I think ideally we'll use that for wastewater, but that'll be part of the back and forth, and we've got to get Dennis on board to really help us, I think.
I'm not a math genius, but 14 is a lot bigger than 3.
Yeah,
It's astounding.
But
Definitely.
I don't think in Carol's presentation last night, she articulated how much was one-time COVID-related expenses that they were anticipating. She said that they had taken that, they had not included that in the budget because it was one time and reimbursable by COVID. So I feel like that's kind of just a unknown figure kind of hanging out there. If it's $13 million, then that makes a lot of sense. If it's like 500,000, that's a different story. So I think we need to know what that figure is.
their COVID number was the 4.6 million, or 4.6% increase, versus when they pulled out all the COVID, it went down to 2.72%.
I need that in real numbers and not in percentages to understand what that
I'll
means.
send you their budget.
Okay. So, and that was for FY22, not
That was for FY22.
reimbursement for FY21.
That was for FY22. Yeah, that's part of how they got from 1.3 million down to $900,000 for us. 1.388 to 970 something thousand.
Okay.
That's the delta. That was COVID related.
And I wanted to ask, at last night's meeting, I didn't see the PowerPoint, but are these numbers available through that link of last night's agenda for the Board of Selectmen's meeting for the down numbers, the burn down numbers for the budget? Or Ed, do you have a more detailed copy of the school budget that you can send to the members here?
It was not in the link.
All right, do you have something more detailed you can send to the members? You've got some numbers here. I'm just asking if you have the school budget broken down in a more clearer format with more specific numbers that the finance committee can look at.
I have their presentation I can send.
That's really just the link. So should we be asking for a more detailed?
There is no link.
Okay.
He did not give us the budget and time to put it in the packet.
Okay.
You have the actual PowerPoint presentation, whatever you can send us.
Right.
Okay, that's fine.
I
Great.
will send.
Thanks,
I'll
Ed.
send it, yes.
We've got that. Here.
Do we have any more questions on this topic?
Brian, I got one.
Robert?
I mentioned this, so we talked about this a little, we didn't talk, we text and stuff like that. Did anybody have asked the school committee what retention of maybe upwards of 10% of kids repeating the year would cost us next year? I'm just kind of thinking a little longer down the line. We're in new business. There's a bit of a surge going on right now, which is keeping your kids back for a year. I'm just thinking that what would happen if we saw a 5, 10, 15% request to, kids to repeat that year, and how would that affect the budget? I'm just trying to get a little ahead of 2023.
That was not brought up, I don't believe. Correct?
No.
Would you mind just tossing it on an agenda maybe in the next couple months? Because we're going to see, I think we're going to see more and more of this as kids realize, or parents realize, that their children didn't get the education they should have got for the last year and a half. And I'm just looking at myself. I would school choice my kid in a second. I did. And I would hold my kid back in a second if I thought they didn't grow the way they should have during a COVID year.
Do parents have the ability to keep kids back if they, is it their discretion? Like, let's say they got Easy. Can they just say, well, we're gonna keep the kid an extra year? Are you allowed to do that?
I heard yes, but that's what I heard.
don't know.
Parents can demand it.
They can? Okay.
That's what I heard. No, I didn't vet it that much,
Right.
but my first inquiry was, yes, you can do that.
Hmm.
I mean, if it's gonna be a $3 million impact or $800,000 impact, let's try to figure it out. You know, it's just a spreadsheet that someone could toss us and keep in the back of our mind.
Stephanie?
And we know we end up paying for it anyways, whether it's a Proposition 2.5 override or a budget cut. Whatever we get told we have to pay for the education of the kids, we end up doing.
So my thought was just that it would be interesting to look at that as part of a kind of bigger picture snapshot. Maybe kind of asking, and I don't know, maybe this is a useless activity. Bob, feel free to tell me if it is, but asking kind of every department to just say, like, what are some unanticipated costs that we could potentially see in FY23 as dynamics shift back, or there's just things that we weren't thinking about, so that we can have a bigger picture, like well ahead, maybe in the summertime going into FY23. And, you know, maybe that can spark kind of also a revenue conversation as well. Just a thought.
Yes. From departments. Okay.
Something to do after the meeting.
Yeah.
So, Mr. Chairman, just a quick question for Bob while we're still on new business.
Sure.
I'm starting to get a little nervous about the DHY situation here.
Yep.
Is there any kind of update you can give us, or maybe you can give us an update at some future meeting?
Right now, the Board of Selectmen are considering taking the DHY question off of the warrant for the 22nd, based upon the lack of responses from Dennis and Harwich. They have one response, I was told by Mark Forrest, they had one response during the DHY meeting, and then in the newspaper, it was different. So the Board of Selectmen are trying to get some clarity from both towns. What are they going to do? Dennis has said, although contradicted a little bit, that they plan to put the DHY question on their fall meeting. Harwich has not made a commitment that far. I know the Board of Selectmen want to have a vote one way or another. I think they're going to wait until fall to put that before the voters.
Does that put us behind schedule for Jeff Colby's plan to take advantage of the 28 work?
No, because money has already been authorized through a bond to do that work, and they are not stopping on that.
Okay.
No, the design is continuing. Jeff is working with Mass DOT to make that happen, because no matter what ultimately occurs, we need the pipe in Route 28.
Yeah.
Where it ends up, what treatment plant it goes to, that's not an immediate question for 1 year. I mean, this is several years, but you're correct. If we don't do the pipe in the ground when 28 is open, there's some serious issues, because you cannot open the road for 5 years after they redo it. So we need to get that done. And my understanding is that we have the funding to make that happen through, what is it, Ed, $6 million authorization for bonding?
Close, like 5.2. Rounded.
Okay, 5.2. So yes, that design is continuing, and I think they're at 25% design with the state right now, and they're continuing to do that.
Yeah. And what, if any other way, does this slow us down?
At this point, I don't think it does. You'd like to have certainty that you have 3 partners or 2 partners.
Mhm.
So then you can make your plans for the disposal of treated wastewater, especially on Bass River Golf Course, which is one of the main places. And they need to finalize how that's going to be paid. The two towns were supposed to do reimbursement. That is not in a document that's been signed by anyone yet. So that needs to be done.
And I guess my question and slash my preference that I would really like to see Yarmouth, since we know for sure that there's a lot that we have to do, not only with 28, but the whole work. We're I think very committed to moving forward on wastewater. And there is, it seems very likely going to be an infrastructure bill. And when we went through 2008, towns on the Cape missed out on things because they weren't shovel ready. And I'm just really worried that if we don't have things that are shovel ready as contingencies in the fall, we're going to miss out yet again. After missing out in the 80s when they were literally like handing out money hand over fist for wastewater, and in 08, and we just can't afford to miss that boat. So I just wonder if, and this could be just something to check in on, and maybe Jeff could get back to us at some point.
Mr. Chairman,
What if any opportunities there is for having some portions of that work go forward, be ready to go forward in the interim of that vote?
Mr. Chairman?
Did you want to comment on that?
We have right now 90% ready plans for a go-it-alone solution. That's that's having a waste disposal at Buck Island. That's having a wastewater treatment plant at Buck Island. And that plan had us sewering one half of Route 28. That was the 2011 plan that was defeated because it was all on the tax rate. So we can refresh that plan and be shovel ready for an infrastructure. We've been pushing on being ready for an infrastructure bill for a while. So that's our way to capitalize on that money, keep on going forward. Our partners, we had discussions with Dennis about our having the treatment plant in Yarmouth, and they're bringing their waste to us. That was at the end of Bill Hinchy's time with the town of Yarmouth, and Barnstable might need some help with their plant capacity as well. So there's still an opportunity to have a multi-town solution as well.
Thank you. All right, folks, anything else?
Just an update for the capital budget that'll be meeting tomorrow night to discuss reviewing their recommendations and finding a way to alter previous decisions to include the body camera request from PD. There's some variations from that in terms of how many they'd buy and what the cost is. And so when we look again at the capital budget request, the number bottom line should be equivalent, but we might be changing some of the priorities, and they'll be looking at that tomorrow night, and we'll be able to bring that back to you before your meeting on the 4th for the recommendations with the board.
Pat, what time is that again?
It's at 4 o'clock tomorrow afternoon.
Okay. I'm gonna try to attend.
I'll send you the link.
I got it already.
Okay.
Steph?
Sorry, just to clarify, Pat, the chief's plan would be for that to, or the capital budget committee's plan would be for that to be ultimately cost neutral by pulling some other priorities off
Right.
the police department.
Right, or other priorities from other departments based on the feeling of the capital budget, what has more of a higher level of security and public safety was a big issue for them, but that didn't just mean police and fire. They were looking at some DNR issues, some recreation and camera issues, some other pieces as well. So there's a number of alternatives for them to, and we need to see what the quotes are, but they could choose to not do all 61 at this point, but to only do, pardon me, Bob?
far as I know, they're not doing 61. They talked about 20.
They had talked about 20, but the quotes I've received so far are for
Yeah.
61. So I need something to present tomorrow that has a variation in that number. It could be voted and delayed till the fall, if so chosen, so that we could see how the state proceeds with funding some of those through grants and some other resources. So instead of us putting all of our money out front and then missing out on those opportunities, or they could, again, look at doing the whole shebang and then having additional expenses down the road. So the capital budget committee will look at all of that and how it will impact. That the largest number that we all see is about $195,000 for all 61 and the charging units and the ability to store everything in the cloud and withdraw all of the videos from the cloud as requested and the maintenance of that. So we'll look at all those and then come back to you. They will with their recommendation to you.
Thanks, Pat.
Anybody else? Do we have a motion to adjourn, perhaps?
I'll move we adjourn.
A second.
Do a roll call, Nate,
Yes.
Sarah,
Aye.
Robert, that was you, sorry.
Hey,
Jack,
Aye.
Steph,
Aye.
and I'm an aye as well. Okay, that was a short and sweet one. Appreciate it. See you next week. Bye.
Pat, drinking fountains, is that a repair of existing fountains?
In addition to with bottle fillers instead of just bubblers.
So you're not going to put in, you're going to put in brand, is this a replacement? Is it new? Is it, I'm updating the warrant with the Rs and the Ns and all that.
I do believe that what Dave was looking for because of the plastic bottle initiative was to put in new water fountains that allow you to fill a refillable drinking bottle and not to just be able to sip like you do at school with the little water that comes across the top.
Okay, so I'm going to put an N instead of an R and an M.
That's correct. Bob, I apologize. I thought I had done it correctly. We'll fix it for next week. It's I don't understand. I thought we could review it without a vote and it would be okay. So I could have modified the agenda accordingly.
They determined not, so I guess we'll do what they say.
Right.
I guess maybe just put all the stuff in there and, you know, if they don't do it, they don't do it. That's what I do with the selectmen all the time. Just put more in. It's fine. Doesn't hurt anything.
All right.
Yeah.
I've got a note to myself to make sure that happens, along with adding with a possible vote to the review, and then also the DY cost for keeping kids back. And
That's not.
They're not going to talk
That's
about
not
that next week.
no, that's
Yeah.
right. I did send him the PowerPoint already, Ed, so you don't have to worry about that. It was on the attachment from Eileen for the meeting
Oh, yeah.
last night.
I sent it to you. You sent my copy.
Oh, did I? Oh, great. Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, because they did two. They did one late in the day because they modified something that
Oh.
Pam then sent out to the selectmen, and I think everybody got one. Doesn't tell you much, but,
Yeah, and Robert Ciavara got it. That's how I got it.
oh, yeah.
All right. So
Yeah, because
well,
Robert's costing us with his choice school children, that's almost $3 million, so thanks.
so the warrant itself, they don't have. So I don't have it
They
either.
do have it. I sent it to
Oh,
them.
that's right. They have it. I
They
don't.
all
have
got
it.
it.
I don't.
copied it.
Yeah.
I sent it to you, Pat.
Did you? Okay, thank you. I'm not on
You're
my mail.
I'll send it to you again because I fixed the year
Yeah,
and I'm going to put in the N's and M's and R's and all that kind of stuff. Just as
Here it is. All right, thank you.
there's time to do the updated, so yeah. I think we're in good shape with
Yeah,
that.
don't send that version though, Pat. I'm
No,
gonna send
right,
you another
right.
one.
Too late. sent it during the meeting, was trying to be efficient. I'll send it to them again with the
warrant?
update. I sent it to them during the meeting, Ed.
Oh,
Got it, I saw it, and then I sent it forward right now as we were talking, and I know they needed the warrant. And you had sent it to me at 6:42. I thought it was okay, so I
that
sent it
just
forward.
had some minor changes. I had sent them the correct warrant earlier in the day that they
The
all
FinCom.
received.
To the
And then
FinCom.
Ed was trying to make minor corrections.
I'm talking about capital budget. Because capital, the free cash section in the warrant would show capital budget where we are with free cash. So who'd you send the warrant to?
I sent actually the school committee budget presentation to
That's-
this group tonight.
Yes, that's the one I sent you.
Yeah.
Right. Right. So I sent that tonight.
Yeah.
And I have not sent them the warrant. That did not go out.
Oh, okay.
Oh, okay, great.
That's good. You didn't send it. Yep.
So I'm going to send you both or everybody another copy today. or
Yeah,
tonight.
if you
Once
would-
you're done. Yeah.
And they don't, and maybe what I'll do is they don't need to see the whole warrant. They just need to see the free cash